thing is, if you're in a really bad relationship, none of your friends or mentors are going to tell you to stick with that person who's cheating on you. Nobody is going to do that. So why are we so comfortable telling people to stick with jobs that are treating them really poorly? I just don't understand why we're so comfortable shrinking our light, making ourselves feel undervalued, giving ourselves physical anxiety symptoms over a job. Listen, I understand we all need to put food on the table. Like, it is what it is. That's capitalism. I just have a difficult time accepting how comfortable we are staying in jobs that make us feel physically ill, that make us feel worthless, that make us feel like we don't deserve to be in the rooms that we're in. Fortunately, we are going to take it back to high school. I want to take it back to when you had bangs. I want to take it back to the acne, babe. Here's looking at me. I was not a looker back in the day. And I want you to think of the subjects that you really hated in elementary school and in high school. For me, it was math and gym. I didn't hate those subjects because I didn't find them interesting. Like, they are both objectively relatively interesting subjects. I hated them because I was really bad at them. And that is how the human brain works. We are typically conditioned to only enjoy things that we perceive ourselves to be good at. And that's why it's so impactful how people speak to us, how we speak to ourselves, especially in those formative years. If we're consistently told that, yeah, you're not good at this, you're not good at that, we literally will believe it. And studies show it impacts our performance in that given subject. But the reason I'm bringing that up is we carry all of that trauma really into our adult lives. And when you start your first 9-to-5 job, or where you're starting your first internship and you're like, oh my God, I'm not good at this right away. Which, side note, why the hell would you be? You've never done this before. Like, give yourself a little bit of grace. We automatically have an association with the feeling of I'm not good at this with I hate this. And it becomes this really negative feedback loop. So be honest with yourself and ask yourself a couple of questions. How long have I been in this job? Like, the job that you hate, how long have you been doing it? My rule of thumb, if it's less than 6 months, give it some time. Give it at least 6 months. That's the average learning curve for most jobs. And you'll tend to like the job more as you become better and better and better at it. That's just how our brains are wired. If any of these things are starting to hit home and resonate and you're like, okay, yes, I hate this job, but also I recognize I'm not that good at it, please, please, please make your first step finding ways to mitigate this feeling of not being good at this job. Does it mean you need to ask for more mentorship, ask for coaching? Do you do a little bit of extra work on your lunch hour to beef up those skills that maybe just aren't coming naturally to you? Like, I've done that a bunch of times in my career. And I'll give an example after this, because trust me, this has worked in my career as well. The job I ended up loving the most in my career, I started off hating. Like, I almost quit in my first month because I was miserable. But start off by finding ways to improve the skills that you recognize could be gaps. Ask for mentorship from people who are willing to lean in and support you. And if you're just feeling like you're not great at this job and you don't have a lot of evidence, I recommend creating a list of all of your core accomplishments. I know it's so cheesy, but I'm telling you it works. If you write down all of the things you did really, really well that week, I guarantee it's going to change how you move for the rest of the week because you're so much more confident. I would also say, much like in a relationship, are you getting the love and adoration you deserve? Sometimes, actually a lot of times, you start a job or you're in a job for a while, nobody is going to come by and pat you on the back and be like, Emily, you wrote that email so well. So then naturally, Emily, myself, I'm in my head. I'm thinking the email I wrote is bad. Nobody commented on it. Everyone thinks I'm an idiot. No, people are just so wrapped up in their own lives. They're not paying attention to you. They're not going to use their limited time to reaffirm you. But usually that's what we need. We just want to hear from somebody that we're not total crap at what we're doing. And that can ease a lot of our anxiety. And the positive reinforcement, again, makes us like the job more. Why don't you ask for feedback? Ask your boss, hey, how did I do on that? If they come back and say, actually not that well, okay, great. Now you know what to work on so you can start getting that positive reinforcement. But you're probably going to be pleasantly surprised and they're going to say, that was awesome. And it puts a pep in your step. Okay, next thing you're going to do is define what you don't like about this job specifically. Literally write this down. Do you not like how social it is? Do you not like the hours? Do you not like the type of work? Make a list of these specifics, because next what you're going to do is figure out how you're going to get space, like either physical or with boundaries, from those specific things. It is so important. And actually, like, a lot of this is within our span of control. And this is where I'm gonna open up a little bit. So when I first started a recruitment job, I'm not gonna share which one, it was a really big change from the type of recruitment I was previously doing. I used to do a lot of like early career, and then I moved into software engineering recruiting, and I knew nothing about technology. I felt like I was so in over my head, and everyone I worked with had been there, done that. Like they were seasoned vets. I had never done this kind of recruiting before. It was very different. And basically within the first 2 weeks, I realized how many things I didn't know. And instead of being motivated by that, I was scared and I was intimidated, and I was like, I'm stupid. Why did I get this job? Like, why did they give me this position? I don't know anything. And then when I didn't get positive reinforcement over the first 2 months, because I was learning and frankly, my outputs weren't fantastic, I was getting in my head like, this is a lot of work. I don't know what I'm doing. Everybody thinks I'm an idiot. And that was the cycle. By month 3, I vividly remember I was living in my old apartment, like an hour and a half outside of Toronto. I called my dad on a walk with my dog and I was sobbing. I was like, I need to get out of this job. I hate it. I hate it so much. It's the worst thing that's ever happened. I have anxiety. And my dad asked me, he's like, do you hate it or are you bad at it right now because you're still learning? And damn, like, Mike is always right. Why is Mike always right? And so I stuck with it. I did another 3 months. Fun fact, that was the job I started at Intuit. I was there for many moons, many years in that position, and it changed my life. It was the best job I've ever had. If I would have quit because I wasn't good at it right away, I would have missed out on the best opportunity in my entire career. So maybe people are the issue, and the people are super toxic and they're chatty, and you're like, I can't handle these crazy people. What you do is create boundaries with those people. You work with headphones in so they can't come up and talk to you when you're in the office. You don't respond to messages that are gossipy. You straight up pretend that you didn't see them. Figure out ways you can create small barriers between you and the cucolonis, the crazy pantses, because we don't have time or energy for that. Maybe the thing that you hate is the lack of work-life balance. How can you create rules for yourself to create balance and to create those boundaries? I'm probably going to do a full episode on work-life balance because I think work-life balance is insane. We ultimately will never have work-life balance unless we give ourselves permission to not give a shit and to create those boundaries and to decide that our health and our lives are more important than us answering an email. And when you say it out loud like that, like obviously, no wonder, like of course it's more important, but we feel so much guilt and we feel like we're obligated to be the best all the time for our employers. So we're scared to set boundaries, which makes us hate our jobs even more. It's pep talk time. All right, bestie, listen up. How you feel about your job is normal. You are not alone in feeling like, oh my God, am I supposed to like this? Is this the rest of my life? The dread that you feel is a very normal, very common human experience. You are not alone in that. It doesn't make you a loser. It doesn't make you an idiot for taking this job. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. In fact, you maybe not being great at this job doesn't mean you're not going to be great at the next one. We are people. We are humans. We are flawed. We are not designed to be perfect. I would actually argue I have made more mistakes in the jobs that I've loved than the jobs that I hated. The difference was I was surrounded by people who made me feel validated, and I learned how to detach my worth from my work. And that was one of the most critical things I ever did. And how I did that was speaking kind things about myself, consuming content that made me feel valid and made me feel seen. That really changed a lot for me, so that I wasn't comparing myself to girls on Instagram who were like, welcome back to the day in the life of a job I love and everyone is perfect and I just got promoted. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. Like, I am not as perfect as you. What's wrong with me that I'm not as perfect as you? You don't have to be perfect to be good. You're allowed to kind of hate this phase of your life. That's okay. What you're not allowed to do is stay in this phase for too long. So either make the changes we just talked about with the tips and tricks or get the F out. I care about you too much to watch you wither away over a job that is never going to love you the way you are trying to love it, ever. So what's going to happen after this episode? You're going to let yourself have a cry. Oh, you're going to cry, and I'm going to cry with you. You're going to cry. It's normal. It's fine. Tomorrow you're going to wake up. You're going to create an action plan based on the steps I gave you. You're going to give it a month and a half. If nothing changes, you start applying for jobs immediately. Understand? Immediately. Okay? Are you with me? I hope that helped. That got emotional because I've been there, man. I've been there so much. I hated the first job I had it into it. I'm just going to say it. I hated it. I loved the work. I was so overworked. I had no work-life balance at all. And it wasn't until I forced myself to create it that I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to like this job more when I start liking me enough to walk away from things that are taking advantage of me. and it changed my life. It made it a lot better, and it gave me the opportunities to grow within the company. And eventually I left that job because it just wasn't the right fit for me. I was miserable. Okay. I hope this is helpful. If you have questions or specific things that you want me to answer, just so you remember, on Wednesdays, we don't wear pink, but we do answer your questions. So send in your questions with the links in the description. That's our chatty style What Would Emily Do episodes, where we just help you work through the really crappy stuff that nobody else is talking about, all the information that's gate kept, all of the stuff where you're like, I just need someone to talk to. That's what we do. That's what that whole episode is for. It's long, it's chatty, it's such a vibe. So make sure that you are submitting all of that below. And thank you so much for hanging out with me. I absolutely adore you. Friendly reminder, you can listen to the show on all podcast platforms as well as YouTube if you are a visual friend. But thank you so much for hanging out with me. Love you lots. Mwah, and I'll talk to you on Wednesday.